What's up, YouTube and UBC fans? This is Dpad Gamer. I am one of the analysts this year, and I'm going to bring you the power rankings for week 1 of the UBC. So first off, I would just like to mention that normally Verd will be with me doing these. However, Verd is ripped this week. He's got a lot of stuff going on personally, so I will be covering it this week by myself. I have on the left side of the screen all of the Verd's picks from week 0. This is the draft analysis power rankings. And on the right are my edited versions of the teams. So let's go ahead and we'll just compare what Verd thought from last week to what I saw after the week 1 battles. So first off, we have Celadon City Celebes, and they played an interesting game this week. To be fair, it's not the team that they originally drafted because it is a new coach. Now the Celebes were able to get 3 kills off this week, so it wasn't a complete blowout. I think they did a good job managing that. But I think the Texas Nightmares just had a little bit better of a matchup as far as the overall team goes and what Mons were brought. So he did a good job managing a bad situation. But I'd really like to see him be a little bit more careful with the Mons that he brings versus the Mons that can actually put in a lot of work. So when you see a Gengar, for example, you got to be really careful not to keep your Clefable in, for example. Or with your Diggersby, you can't let it get burned. So there are a lot of ways to get around that. And I think that after he shakes the first week rust off, we'll see him play significantly better than this week. So next we have the Chicago Flock. Now the Chicago Flock stayed in the same position this week, and the reason for that is partially because of the team itself. So what we predicted in the beginning of the season is what we're starting to see actually come to fruition. And the reason we say that is because he is a little bit too heavy with dark types. Now, I know in the interview he said that he really likes dark types, but when you have a team that you bring where you have so many Mons that are weak to fairy types, that are weak to dark moves, or weak to fighting moves, like his team is. For example, his Thundurus is weak to ice, his Mandibuzz is weak to ice, his Mandibuzz is neutral to fighting, Absol's weak to fighting, Blade is weak to dark, Swampert is 4 times weak to grass, and then his Honchkrow is weak to ice and neutral to fighting. You've got a really, really hard time to handle this. And he went up against Kansas City Kakunas, which is a little bit unfair as far as giving a total breakdown of his skill, because Adam is an amazing battler and he had Manaphy. So we can see here that Manaphy got 3 kills against the Mandibuzz with Ice Beam. He killed Mega Absol and Doublade with Surf neutrally, and he also was able to kill so those are the 3 kills there. He was able to kill 2 Mons with his Mega Ampharos. He had Hidden Power, which was able to kill the Swampert. Really good prep on his part. And Thunderbolt took out Honchkrow. He was able to kill the Thundurus T with Stealth Rocks. So there's a lot of improving to do. I know his team, like I said, is heavy with dark types. So it's going to be hard for him to change that. But I think with the right prep, he can do a lot better. So next up we have the Honchkrows. That's hard to say. And he has actually moved up a few slots. And I think he has a lot of potential as a battler, especially after this week, where he played one of the best players in the Baltimore Orioles, and coming out with a real tight 0-1. So he did lose, but he did pretty well considering how close it was of a match. He really did a good prep, and I think we'll see a lot more out of him as the season goes on. Week 1 is always hard to reevaluate a lot of the power rankings. There's not a lot to say in this match other than it was really back and forth. He did a good job managing the team, especially against such a seasoned battler. So next up we have the Washington Talonflames. This match was pretty close. It was a 2-0 where he did lose, but he did pretty well. I feel like he was a little too aggressive with some of his plays this week, and a little too cavalier with sacrificing Mons in order to switch out other Mons. I think prep-wise he did okay, but I think as he becomes more used to this league, and this season with the Mons that he has, we're going to see a lot cleaner version of the Talonflames moving forward. You'll have to watch the match again to really see how close all of this was. It was a good match. So we'll talk about it a little bit further with the Seattle Scissors, with how well they prepped. But it really was just a situation of the Scissors were a better team this week than the Talonflames were as far as prep. So really with any counter team league, most of the plays that you're going to see that are spectacular are the ones where they are middle ground plays, and the ones where the prep was done extremely well before the battle even started. So the Talonflames are going to need to really study their opponent, the Mons that they bring, and bring a better counter team in order to climb the ranks further. So hopefully they'll be able to do that. I'm sure they will, and it's going to be exciting moving forward through the season to see how all of these players shift. So moving forward, we have the Broadway Blastoise at 10, and this is actually one of the biggest shifts. They fell 4 points. The reason for that is just how they played this week, and I really had high hopes for them based on their team, but unfortunately the Keldeos were just able to completely out-prep them and outplay them. The Metagross really used Facade well, taking out 3 Mons with the same move. Mega Diancie also did a really good job taking out the threats that it needed to. And Heliolisk was a huge surprise with it being able to do a really good job between Dark Pulse and Volt Switch. So we'll talk about that a little bit more with the Keldeos. I don't want to go too far on that. The Broadway Blastoise did a good job with Darmanitan. That thing is a monster, and they used it well. Unfortunately, there was too many Mons on the Keldeos that were able to counter it. So or at least check it. So I think moving forward, he's going to be careful, or I think moving forward, he's going to have to be more careful with the Mons that he brings. Darmanitan is one of those Mons that's so powerful, you're going to see it almost every week. And because of that, you're going to have teams that are able to counter it really easily, just because of prep and knowing that you're bringing it. So just be a little bit more careful moving forward with how you plan your teams around that, because I think the Keldeos knew a lot of the Mons that you were going to bring this week, and because of that, he was able to out-prep. So hopefully in the future, you'll be able to clean that up a little bit, and like I said, please don't hate too much. This is week 1, so there are going to be a lot of adjustments, and there's a lot of rust to shake off, like I've said before. When you're going into a league format for the first week, it doesn't matter how seasoned you are. There's always a learning curve with a new team. So just take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt and realize that we just want you all to do the best you can. So it's not we're not hating on anybody. So let's move on. So next up we have the Shinryu Pikachus. Now they've actually gained 2 slots, and even though their match went, for lack of a better word, terrible, I think that they have a lot of potential, and I enjoyed the prep that they did. Unfortunately, when they went against the Luxrays, there was just no hope because he completely out-prepped. So I want to see him continue with this style of play. I think it will win him matches, and that's why he moved forward. Now, the next team up is the Mesquite Mesprits, and they have actually fallen just 1 position, and part of that is just partly because of the team they have, but also just the way that it ended up playing. This was actually one of the most nail-biting matches of the week. It was actually a 0-0. So he ended up losing just barely, but he ended up losing. So it was a back and forth match with a lot of deaths on both sides. Obviously, as a 0-0, all Mons dying, and it was just by the hair that me and Chao's won. So I know that the Mesprits are going to do better moving forward. Now the next team is the Texas Nightmares, and we are getting to the point now where we have talked about each match, and we're getting back covering the same matches. So this match was really good, and the Nightmares actually increased their ranking by 2 points. So they definitely jumped up from this match. He used his Gengar masterfully. It is one of the harder Mons to use because it is a glass cannon, but he used it very well, taking out 2 Mons. His prep with Mega Steelix was really, really good, bringing. I mean, it's a more standard set that he brought, but it was the right set to bring. And sometimes just because it's a standard set doesn't mean it's bad. In this case, it worked out fabulously. I also like how he used his Vaporeon to counter the Tentacruel very well. And he also was able to make some really nice predictions with Ninetales to take out some of the bigger threats. He used Will-O-Wisp to take out Diggersby, like I said. That was an indirect kill, but it still counts, and it really hindered him moving forward. It'll be interesting to see how he uses Jumpluff in the future. It definitely is one of those Mons that's a head-scratcher, so we'll see how it goes forward. And I really think he will do well. I think he'll continue to grow. Hopefully his team building doesn't get him in trouble in the future, though. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, but I really think if he continues with this style of hyper offense, he's going to keep a lot of people off balance that like to play more of the balance style. So at number 6, at dropping 2 points, we have the Luxrays. Now this is not saying anything bad about him. He did an excellent job prepping. He did an excellent job playing. The reason for the drop is some of the other players in the league really shot up on the rankings. So obviously they had to get bumped up. So if the other players moving forward, really tank, then I think Luxrays will jump up very easily. Just because he's in that area of like he's a really good player, and we're going to see a lot of flux anywhere between 6 and 1. You're going to see a huge flux depending week to week and depending on how the season goes. So I know we covered it a little bit, but I think he did an excellent job running the combination of his Salamence and his Gardevoir. He didn't need really his Registeel. He did use it well, but he didn't need it for the core because Salamence and Mega Gardevoir together are scary. I mean, he took out 3 Mons with direct kills with Salamence. He took out 2 with Gardevoir, and he didn't even lose either of them. So, I mean, he just swept through a team really easily with those 2 Mons. So I think going forward, it's going to be a little bit easier to predict because those 2 Mons are probably going to come every week. Now, that being said, they are powerful Mons, so it's hard to prep for them, and I think that he uses them very well. So hopefully he will able to stay where he is or continue to grow depending on, like I said, how the other teams do. So let's go ahead and move forward to the next team. So the next team we have is at ranking 5, and he did drop 2 spots. And again, this is exactly the same as the Luxrays. We are not saying anything bad about his play. He did it very, very well. I really enjoyed how he used Zoroark. It's rare to see Zoroark. It is rare to see Zoroark used, but he used it very, very well, and it was a lot of fun to watch him use it to throw off his opponent. Again, the only reason that he is lost a few ranks is just because we had some other players that did surprisingly well, and we had to move them up. So I do apologize. It's nothing personal. The other teams just played so well that we had to move them up. So we are going to see a lot of flux, like I said. Watch the match, though. I love how he used the Zoroark. It really threw the Talonflames off, and he also used his core between Ferrothorn, Latios, and Staraptor. Now that's not a typical core, I know, but he used it very well. Between all of those switch-ins, he did a really good job of diversifying the kills, and he did a good job of throwing the Talonflames off the whole match. So moving forward to our number 4 slot, we have the Maryland Mianshaos, and this was a pretty big drop too. He dropped 3 places. And again, it's nothing against him. There were just 3 teams that we feel did better. But he did really well. This was, like I said, the most nail-biting, intense match. It could have gone either way. He just managed to squeak out that victory, getting 2 passive kills with Arcanine, and then managing to get the rest of the kills spread around between Arcanine, Mega Alakazam, and Thunderous Eye. He had a hard matchup, and he prepped very well, but some of the predictions made between the 2 of them were a little off. So I have no doubts that Mianshaos are going to climb back up into the 1, 2, and 3 slots. He is a phenomenal battler, and I really look forward to watching these matches moving forward. We've already covered a lot of why he is moved to rank 4, so let's go ahead and move on to rank 3, which was the Boston Keldeos. This was the biggest jump. This was the single biggest jump in all of the rankings. He jumped 5 places. He did such an amazing job prepping against the Broadway Blastoise. He did such a good job using his Heliolisk to take care of a lot of threats. He prepped really well with those coverage moves, and he used Mega Diancie very, very well. It is a very hard mon to use when it's 4 times weak to Steel, and you can't have a berry to cover that weakness. And he did a phenomenal job with Metagross. He knew that he would get statused with Metagross, and he was just able to wipe the floor with the rest of the team, running Facade and taking out the rest of the mons. I loved this match, and I really think if he preps like this every week, he will stay where he is. He did a phenomenal job, and I cannot wait to see the next match come out of him. At number 2, climbing 3 places, this is no surprise here. The league owner, of course, the Kansas City Kakunas. Adam did a phenomenal job. I want to see if he can keep this up. This week he had one of the easier matches, I think, so we'll see how he does, but I have faith in him. He is a great battler. I've watched him play quite a bit, and I've played against him quite a bit in prep matches. He does a really amazing job with reads, with prep. I'm worried about his team. You know, we've talked about that before, so we'll just see how he does, if he needs to make changes or not. He's one of those players where you give him a team and he makes it work. So we'll just see how he does. I think he's going to stay in the top 4 for a long time. And in number 1, we have the Baltimore Orioles. They did such a great job, and it was against a team that they would struggle with. I know because Mega Lopunny is my favorite mon, and some of the matchups that he had to go against are really hard to kill. He did a great job, and I know he's going to continue to do that. I think there's going to be a real power struggle between these top 4 players. We're going to see a lot of shifting back and forth. I am sure that Verd is going to disagree with some of these shifts, but that is unfortunate because he is not here this week, and I cannot wait to have him next week where we can talk about this back and forth and have a new power rankings. Thank you everyone for watching. Please make sure to watch every single battle from each week from each team. They all do a really good job of putting good content together so we can all enjoy it together. I really appreciate all of the hard work that all of them are doing, and I know if you watch each match, you are going to feel the same way. So please like, comment, subscribe, both my video here, the videos of every single one of our analysts, and every single battler. The whole point of this is so that we can have a fun community, enjoy each other, and be able to enjoy the matches and enjoy Pokemon. So thank you guys, of course. This is Dpad Gamer signing off.